Welcome and thanks again for joining me for another live stream. So it's Wednesday. This is a typical schedule for me, and I'm trying to keep this up each week. Today I'm going to be talking about and demonstrating the steps, step by step, for setting up just about any sample library in Dorico. So this is helpful if you have a new library, which is my case, and you want to get it integrated. I just upgraded myself to a collection of libraries, and there was a bunch of stuff that came with it that I've never used. And I thought I actually made a project this last week that used a bunch of this stuff. And I thought, yeah, this is actually a step by step that I haven't seen online, really just explaining how that's all connected, really from the point of creating a new instrument. What happens if you want to add some kind of instrument like, let's say, I don't know, in the case of this last week, a concertina, and it's not in the Dorico library already. How do you go about setting that up so that it's named correctly and will configure correctly in the future? So I'm going to show you endpoints all the way to expression maps, how that works. I'm starting with a completely fresh project. And at the very end, I'm also going to try and address a couple of questions that have come up lately. So let's get started. I'm going to take myself off the screen. And actually, I'll just make a quick mention that I am going to demonstrate this with both VE Pro, which is what I prefer to use, and also Kontakt. So I'm going to start with Kontakt. I've got a bunch of libraries in Kontakt that I don't normally use. So I'm going to look for one. You can see all my instances of VE Pro here. I'm going to go ahead and click on this and load up a new instance of Kontakt. I have Kontakt 8 now, but I'm going to go ahead and do this with Kontakt 7 to avoid any weirdness. Hey Shubis, thanks for logging on today. Welcome. So I got all these new instruments, and I thought, I don't know, like I don't write a lot of Balinese gamelan music, but I'm going to go ahead and recognize that there's a bunch of instruments here, like let's say these kettle gongs, and I'm going to add them to my library. So these are pretty unfamiliar to me as an instrument, but let's see how we set it up. So first of all, of course, you load up Kontakt. When you load it up here, you're going to probably want to rename it. I'm going to go ahead and call this gamelan, like that, just so that it's easy to spot. I've had this happen a couple of times where the window here will kind of get hidden. I think that's a problem with Dorico. Kind of frustrating. Anyway, also in the interest of my demonstrations, it's always nice when I run into actual real-world problems, because I know this is what happens to everybody out there. Hey Rich, thanks for joining today. Yes, I got 8, but I'm also terrified of using it in case it destroys everything that I've built. So I have to look into that. Maybe I'll do a video on how to move from Kontakt 7 to Kontakt 8 with the minimum of headaches. But that is not something I'm prepared to do right at this time. So we're setting up this kettle gong. I'm actually going to go ahead. Well, yeah, I'll just leave it as gamelan right there. I guess it's an E-L-A-N. So because I'm the kind of guy that keeps track of those things, I'm going to go ahead and change my spelling. So let's go ahead now. We're going to go create this kettle gongs is the instrument. Now, a lot of times what will happen here is I go up to add an instrument and I don't have kettle gongs in there. So what do? Well, I'm going to hit escape from there, and I'm going to go up to libraries and to instruments. And I'm going to just find something, that I think is similar. This looks like a, maybe there's a steel drum, something like that, steel pan drum, something like that. And I'll look for an instrument that's somewhat close, and I'll create a duplicate of it. And then I'll go ahead and I will rename it like so. These names are important. They are, this name here, this first one, is what'll show up in your setup as a staff label, so it's always good. So I'm just naming these like so. And then a very important thing when you are done with this, you'll notice that my kettle drum's missing here, and that's because I'm searching for steel. If I look up kettle drum, I can see it there. I can choose it again. A very important step when you're setting up custom instruments is to make sure that you hit this star, and that's going to be, if you don't hit that star, you're not going to actually be able to find it. I'll show you. If that star is not hit there, even though I've created the instrument and I come over here and I try to add it, it is there. But if you try to add it, sometimes you'll get a bogus result. It's working right now. Maybe they've updated it. I actually had contacted Dorico about it, and they said, yeah, that's a legit problem. So anyway, maybe they've updated it, but I still would recommend that anytime you do this, always hit star. That basically means that the instrument will be available in the future when you need it. Okay, another very important thing is to make sure that it has a family. If it does not have a family, I'll show you that if we don't have a family selected on this instrument, even if we have the star enabled, and we go here and we want to add a kettle drum, well, it's still there. I guess maybe that's because I've already added it. Let's see. I had this problem just the other day where I was doing a search for kettle drum, and then it was because it didn't have any family. Anyway, that's, you know, one of those things. At any rate, I definitely would say always go ahead and hit the star to make it available, and always make sure that you have a family selected here. I've got pitched percussion. Okay, so as long as you have those set up, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Go ahead and add the kettle drum. Now the real fun starts because we've got a kettle drum, but of course it doesn't do anything. Let's go ahead and add it to our flow here so we can see it. But when we select it and we start playing on our keyboard, there's not going to be any sound. And that's because, and we can see over here in the instrument, there's nothing happening. And that's because we need to go into the play menu over here. So we're going to go into kettle drum, and into the track inspector over here, we need to select the gamelan right there. Okay, now I'm going to leave it at port 1 and channel 1. And I'm going to talk about expression maps because this is quite often something that I'll experience with these maybe older Kontakt libraries or libraries made by smaller third-party developers, is that they won't have the advanced CC11 and CC1 dynamics and expression capabilities sort of automatically built in. And if I go ahead and I write a little melodic line, let's say with this kettle drum, I can't use dynamics to actually control its balance in the arrangement with you know, its loudness, its level against the other instruments, which can be really frustrating. So often what I'll do is I will actually create an expression map here. I've created one, well, it's not here. I guess it's not saved in this template. But what I would do is I would open up my expression maps like so. And there's this default CC11. I'm actually going to duplicate that, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this with CC 7. So I'm going to keep CC1, and I'm going to use 7 instead of 11. And that means that under natural here, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to say, okay, yeah, control change is 1. I'm going to use secondary though, and that's going to be 7, which is just standard volume. And that's actually going to change the volume slider on my Kontakt instance. So as long as I have that. Now I can also go ahead and, oh no, you can't on that. Okay. So make sure that my new expression map is set up here. That way this little volume slider here is going to actually respond to my dynamics like piano and forte and things like that. And that's not really ideal, except in an instrument that does not have any CC1 or CC11 dynamic control. All right, so now we've got that set up. And let's see how we get it to work. There is definitely something strange going on with my instrument, with my setup here. So I'm going to go ahead, save this project, and I'm just going to restart Dorico because there's something sort of unpredictable happening there, and that's just the way things are. From time to time, it happens on my system as well. You're not the only ones. I find myself having to restart Dorico well, more often when I create custom stuff. I think they're still working the bugs out of it. So anyway, let me take myself off the screen again, open up this demo. Okay, and let's see. Ah, yes, you see it's not even in there. So I've got the instrument set up, but it's not selected. Didn't go through correctly. But now we can see that I'm getting sound. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double click these little numbers. If you double click them, they go up to 0. I'm going to turn my fixed velocity on so you can hopefully hear these steel drums a little better. Yes, that's right. Sometimes things do not load at all, Rich, in which case sometimes I just make myself another pot of tea and get on with my day, and other times I scratch my head, restart Dorico 100 times, however many times it takes. At the end of the day, my computer is in charge. That's the way it feels. Okay, so I've got my kettle drum responding now. And if I go ahead and I were to, put in a simple melody here, writing a little... Oh, I guess this is not every key is responding, so make sure that I have my melody in there. Okay, so okay, so now you'll notice that the volume is very low and it's very quiet. Now if I go ahead here and I put in a dynamic, Shift D, and I'm going to go with fortissimo. It got louder, and you can see that the volume up here has changed. Now of course it's not really fortissimo, but it gives me some control. If I were to go, let's see, across all these notes, Shift D, and I were to do pianissimo all the way up to, or triple P up to double F, you'll see that as I play this back, this slider is moving up, responding to my dynamics. And that is because I set up this very simplistic expression map over here. Now I only kept control change on one because sometimes instruments, some of Native Instruments, newest ones for example, they do have dynamic layers, or the mod wheel is pre-programmed to something useful that I still want to modify, but they don't have a dynamics for volume, in which case I just use channel 7. Okay, so that is basically how you can get this to work built right in, but let's look at how you could do this with within VE Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new instance here. You can see that I set up my Ireland library as well. I'm going to add a new instance here, which I'm going to call Gamelan up here. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete this channel. I'm going to add a new instance of Kontakt. And I'm also going to add a, what am I doing? Oh, insert a bus. Going to drive that out to channel 1 like that, and leave that on out 1 and 2. And then, of course, in Kontakt over here, why this plugin does not always load up in VE Pro, I do not know. The best I have found is that if I load up a second instance, it seems to load up like that. So, gamelan, there it is. I'm looking for my kettle gongs. So there it is, it's loaded up. I'm going to go ahead and just delete. Well, actually, I'll leave it there just so that I don't go crazy later on. Might rename this kettle gongs. This is how I would set things up. I would generally set channels to all because I like to use all the channels to handle articulations. There's not a variety of articulations in this case that I'm concerned about. And then port would be 1. So port for me is instrument and channels are articulations. So now I have an instance set up, and I'm going to come back here, and instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up, instead of my gamelan Kontakt instance, I'm going to set up an instance of VE Pro. So I'm going to go down like that, Vienna Ensemble Pro. Open that up, it's up right here. Going to go ahead and connect it to gamelan right there. Go ahead and hit connect. Pretty much always turn this on, that is my preference. And then I might go ahead and also rename this, just so that things stay straight in my head. I'm going to call it VE Pro Gamelan, like so. And now I can go up here to my instrument and switch from the Kontakt version to this. I want to make sure that my port is set correctly. Port is the same, port 1. This channel basically doesn't matter in my instance because I use channel switching in my expression maps, which I've covered a great deal in my other videos. So this channel is always just set to 1. Port is set to 1. And I'm going to go ahead and choose my sort of simplistic expression map as well. Okay, so now what I'll see is over here in this instance, if I'm here, I'm getting the sound now out of that. So if I go back to right and I played my melody, you can see that it's playing back over here. And you can also see this slider here on volume is changing, so the expression map is working. But now, of course, it's all working through VE Pro. So let me just take a look at comments here. Yeah, that's my experience too, Shubha says. I always have to create this dummy instrument. Otherwise it won't load, and it's unique to Kontakt. You know, I'd think that between VE Pro and Kontakt, those two folks would have each other's direct phone lines, and they would have that 100% nailed down, but they don't, and thankfully it's at least a reliable solution. Like so many things in software, you just have to find out what works, and even if it's silly, you have to find myself doing it again and again because it keeps me in my workflow. So I hope this is helpful to folks out there who are looking to install new libraries. You know, my experience here was I upgraded. I wanted to upgrade to Kontakt 8. I thought, well, I've got the collector's edition complete. Basically, it was a little bit give or take here on money-wise to either go for upgrading my complete or getting Kontakt. So I got complete, came with this library, which I really liked, this Ireland library here that had all of these instruments, had like some pipes, nice drum, Irish flute, tin whistle. I really liked it. So I actually wrote a piece this last week for it, or with it, for a game, and it was really helpful. So anyway, I had all these new instruments with complete, and I thought, well, I want to set these up so that, you know, it's not just a one-time project, but I can use them in the future. And as I was going through this process, I realized that I had learned a lot in the last few months, that I've got this process really streamlined and I could share it in a video like this. So I'm glad I kept it. It looks like about 20 minutes. If you are new to the channel or watching this down at the road after I've streamed it, please like and subscribe. It really helps me surface these videos to a larger audience. Anybody who has questions, please put them in the comments of this or any of my other videos. I'm always notified when I get new comments. And if they're questions, then I will answer them generally on these Wednesday live streams. Okay, so that's it for this topic, but I did want to give a little insight to Shubhas out there, because he had asked me it was about my snare, and it was in percussion. So, you know, this is just kind of extra topic. But when I go into, let me take myself off the screen. When I go into my snare here, I'm actually using, I guess I have to have it enabled. Let me go ahead and boot that up. It might take a second to load up. Yeah, that's right. So in the snare here, this is in regards to your question about kind of what I see. So basically, you know, under my single hits here, you know, you've got obviously the snare on and off for each collection. So there's really 3 collections just with one on, one off. And then I've got, these are like, you can hear like, these are the left hand, right hand hits. I think that's maybe the ricochet. That was a drag or a flam and a rough here, I think. Anyway, all of these are the various articulations that I have set up in my expression map. And when I go to rolls, then, you know, there's different ones. I think these are controlled rolls that end with and without accents. The second pair of rolls here is just slightly different. It's documented on the Orchestral Tools website. And then under dynamics, these are, I believe, crescendos, decrescendos, and maybe this is like a crescendo diminuendo. They use the term diminuendo, but crescendo, diminuendo, and then this is like a crescendo diminuendo, so it goes up and down, short and long. So between that, you know, I've got whatever here, I've got 3, 6, and then another, it's all white keys. I don't think the sharp keys do anything. So that's up to 10, and then I'm up another 6, 16. And so you got 16 for on, 16 for off. They're all the same on and off. That's 16 articulations in all between these 3 collections. So I hope that that offers insight into how this particular snare is set up. Again, if anybody has questions, please do post them. I'm more than happy to do my best to answer them. YouTube comments doesn't give us a whole bunch of flexibility for great communication, but I will do my best to interpret your question correctly and provide answers. On these Wednesday calls, I would rather just do Q&As, but you know, I need to have enough questions that I think also that people generally who are on the channel would find useful. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you. Yeah, I hope that helps you, Shubhas, and I appreciate everybody who joined me today for the live stream. I will keep doing it, and I will do my best to be here on Friday. I do have a lot of deadlines. I got one on Thursday, Friday, and another one on Sunday, and so I'm kind of compressed right now. I'm going to do my best to be here on Friday and certainly back on Monday, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.